They snitched on me, my own brothers, the kids I grew up with. Broke the only rule that mattered, the kid code. So I waited. I planned. I set a trap that would make them hate each other for weeks. It involved patience, misdirection, and a single brown lunch bag. If you like slow burn revenge that tastes like victory, you'll love this. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, hit that like button and subscribe. This is one of those petty stories that's somehow perfect. Childish, mean, and wildly satisfying. Stay with me until the end. The payoff is worth it. This starts back in the late 80s. Picture a Florida morning. Humidity already pressing at the windows. Fish tanks ticking in one brother's room. A teacher mom sneaking out before dawn. And a dad who split his life between the pulpit and the firehouse. We had freedom, the kind kids get when the adults are busy being adults. I'd been out that night with a friend. One of those all-night things you think you'll only do once. I rolled in at sunrise, eyelids heavy and proud of surviving the war of teenage hours. At dinner the next night, my brothers, Keith and Jared, did the unforgivable. They ratted me out. There's a code among kids, no snitches. It's a stupid, sacred little thing, and breaking it feels like betrayal. When Mom grounded me, I felt a cold, clean kind of anger, not the hot, flailing anger of a kid caught. Something quieter. A plan began to click into place. A month passed. People forget. He cools. That's the trick. Revenge loses power when you strike too soon. I let the punishment do its work on them in my absence. I let the memory of my curfew fade in the household. When the smoke cleared and they were back to business as usual, the plan moved from my head to the real world. I'd learned early, the best revenge isn't loud. It's slow. It's the patient hand that pushes a row of dominoes and watches them fall, and fall, and fall. Keith loved order. Shoes aligned like soldiers. Books squared to the millimeter. Jared, he lived in fish tank chaos. Tanks lining his walls. Algae that made the air taste weird. Water dripping just enough to make corners smell. A neat freak and a slob. A perfect friction pair. I started conversational seeds. Casual remarks to Keith. Half jokes that sounded like concern. Man, Jared's room smells weird. I'd watch the face, the micro twitch of annoyance. Plant, repeat. In a few days, Keith took the bait. The little dig started. Jared shrugged, laughed. The machine hummed. Now I just needed the catalyst. You can feel a childish thrill before the mischief. My hands got clammy. My heart found that ridiculous mix of guilt and glee. I did something dumb and shocking. I pooped into a brown lunch bag. I sealed it. I hid it in Jared's closet. Say what you will. It was puerile. But in that moment, I felt like a general, setting up his battle. I crept away and watched the war begin. Morning after morning, Jared sniffing, baffled. There's a smell, he muttered. He tore the room apart and found the bag. He did what any reasonable accused slob would do. He blamed Keith. Keith, furious and humiliated, hid the bag back in Jared's room. They'd go to school, come home, rediscover it, accuse, retaliate. For nearly 2 weeks, it was a dance of dirt and deceit. Each morning, I heard the volume of their arguments, like a radio behind the walls. I'd lie in bed, smiling into my pillow, while they accused each other, stubbornly honoring the kid code by never ratting me out for the prank. I watched them spiral, Jared opening windows in Florida heat, sleeping in the living room, Keith pacing, staples of anger. He did this on purpose. Their dignity frayed, Their accusations grew uglier. All the while, the brown bag sat like a ghost between them, unseen when it needed to be unseen, and found when needed to be found. Then Keith escalated. Staples. He stapled the bag to the back of one of Jared's drawers. Now Jared couldn't find it. He tore the room apart with the desperate efficiency of someone who's been convinced the house is haunted. The heat in Florida did not help. Sweat made the hunt frantic. Jared slept in the living room more nights than not, convinced the smell was playing with his mind. At this point, the plot was nearly perfect. I was scarcely involved anymore. My brothers were in full warfare, and I had front row seats. Legend demands witnesses. The universe obliged. My mom, the teacher who never cursed, forgot her lesson plan one morning and came home during the kid hours. She walked into the hallway to a war zone. Keith and Jared were screaming at the top of their lungs about a bag of shit. And then something snapped. My mum, whose vocabulary carefully avoided profanity, exploded. She yelled in a way I'd never heard. Are you telling me you two hid a bag of shit in my house? Do you know how many times I've looked for that smell? Her voice was a physical thing across the hallway. I remember biting the inside of my cheek, so hard I tasted iron. I was in my room, watching the scene like a film. Tears of laughter threatening. The bag was finally found, the evidence destroyed, the ritual complete. They were grounded for a long time. They had to clean the house from attic to floorboards. They scrubbed until their fingers wrinkled. I slept that night like a monarch who had just reclaimed his throne. Here's the thing about good revenge. You don't need to gloat. My satisfaction came from the memory, not the confession. I never told Keith or Jared. I let them stew. I let them carry the bruise of suspicion for weeks, maybe months. That was enough. But I told my ex-wife Clarissa. She was the only adult I'd confided in. That choice mattered. Fast forward to the mid-90s. The parents divorced. Life moved on. And we all ended up at a Christmas gathering. Pizza. Laughter. Old wounds salted by time. My mom, still fond of repeating ridiculous stories, mentioned the bag of poo episode. Keith tried to dump blame on Jared. Jared denied. The room hummed with embarrassment and memory. Then Clarissa, my ex, lost it. She burst out laughing, the kind of laugh that infects everyone in the room. My father looked at her, then at me, and grinned. Oh, you bastard! The room collapsed into chaos in the best possible way. Laughter. The kind you can't fake. I got a light pummeling from both brothers for good measure. Painful. Worth it. The real payoff wasn't a shout or a gloat. It was a perfect loop. The betrayal, the patient setup, the brothers destroying each other's peace, the mother's eruption, and the final corporate memory that lived long enough to make people laugh years later. They had carried that humiliation and paranoia. They'd been forced to clean what they'd neglected. They had to face our mother's fury. And decades later, when the story resurfaced and the truth winked out of a friend's laugh, the entire family shared a moment of knowing. And that knowing was my victory. Quiet, petty, utterly satisfying. I learned something from that brown bag. Vengeance doesn't always need to be loud. Sometimes it's a slow burn. The best revenge is the kind that teaches the lesson without a single trophy shot. I didn't rub it in their faces. I let the memory sit and fester. That was enough for me. If this story made you grin or cringe, or both, smash that like button and tell me in the comments, what's the pettiest revenge you've ever pulled? Share the best one and I might read it in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe for more true tales of petty triumphs and perfect payback. Read slow. Let micro pauses breathe after key lines like, I took a poop in a brown lunch bag. Use internal voice beats. A short, amused chuckle after a successful line can sell the mischief. Lean into sensory detail, the Florida heat, the algae smell, the stapled bag's sinister presence. Those small textures keep listeners hooked.